Blind Light's production manager, Brianna Carrington, and she's going to speak a little bit about her journey and what she does at Blind Light.
Yeah, that was great. Hard to follow. I'm Brianna. I'm the production manager at Blind Light. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. So, I mean, I think the only things people know about Buffalo, New York are the Wings and the Buffalo Bills. So that's where I'm from. As a child, I played Super Mario, Rampage. I loved Rampage. I don't know why I enjoyed it so much, but it was a great game. But my personal favorite, like even up until this day, is Super Smash Bros. Don't know why, because the majority of the time it was just my godbrother and my brother letting me know that they would let me win the game this time, and then completely, demolishing me and not letting me win the game. I fell for it a number of times. I don't even want to talk about it. I don't know how I fell for it that many times, but wrestling and gaming was like a huge part of my childhood, mainly because I grew up in like not the best neighborhood. We live in a good one now, very grateful for that. But I didn't grow up in the best neighborhood. We couldn't really like go outside and play as much, or my parents were pretty strict and, they just wanted to make sure we were okay. So we didn't go outside as much. But so at the beginning of my career, I actually worked in film and television as well, which was amazing for me. I enjoyed it. At first it was just really an interest, and then it turned into like a real deep passion that I had. I got to work on, my first project was the first Purge, which was like the best experience I think I had in film. I worked under someone named Allison Taylor, who she's an amazing location manager, but she's worked on things like Snowfall, A Wrinkle in Time, Insecure, Straight Outta Compton, so many things. She was actually working on A Wrinkle in Time a bit when she was working on The Purge, which I found fascinating because I was just like, how are you splitting yourselves between these two very, very big projects? So she did all that. She's also the reason why I carry a battery pack everywhere I go. That was the first lesson she told me while we were on set, is like, why is your phone dying? Why don't you have a battery pack? But that was the exact push that I needed at the time in my career. I really needed someone to be like, hey, you should be doing this. Think about all these things before you go into a set and all those things. So it was great having her. I loved working under her. Later on, I began to work at a creative agency where we mainly focused on music videos. That is where I gained my experience working with names like Conway the Machine, Love the Genius, Carrie Hilson, Stoneboy, Consequence, and a few others. While working in music, though, I learned that the budget is not as friendly as it is in film. So I had to learn how to be resourceful. And that is where I feel like that's where I learned how to be as resourceful as I am, and to continue to grow and be more and more resourceful no matter what field I'm in. What led me to Blind Light was the fact that I enjoy learning new things. It's my favorite. I like putting myself in uncomfortable positions. I actually put it on my list of to-dos to work in the gaming industry. And back in 2020, I did not think I would cross that off anytime soon. So when Blind Light actually reached out and they were interested, I was extremely excited. Gaming, like I said, was a part of my childhood. So I was very excited and grateful to the team. But I didn't know how it would fit in, not gonna lie. I come from the east side of Buffalo. It's not the best neighborhood. And so I was we're kind of more boxed in. We don't really have, like Bo was saying, I didn't know that actors had to be present. And I didn't think about anything as far as like the voices getting into the games. I was just thinking, oh yeah, this is the game, you can hear the voice, cool, nice things. But so I'm just happy to have the opportunity. I'm happy to be here. And I'm also just really happy to be with Bean Path today, because I really stand by what you guys are doing for the community and stuff like that. I could only hope that I could do that for my community back home, but that's everything about me, I think. I'll pass it over to Dan.
Thank you, Brianna. Hi, everyone. And thank you to Bo, and thank you to the folks at Blind Light for having me. It does my heart incredible good to speak to Bean Path and the people in Jackson. I am a Jackson native. I was born in Hinds County, went to Jackson State University. I went to kindergarten at Jackson State while my grandma was teaching there. Her name is now on the Rose Embley McCoy Auditorium at Jackson State. And it's just really, I'm really excited because there's so many resources right there for you in town that I can't wait to talk about. My video game path, I got a Nintendo Deluxe system when I was 8. I mean, Duck Hunt and Kung Fu. I got Kung Fu and Duck Hunt and Gyromite and Excite Bike. And those were my jam as an 8-year-old just out of 4th grade. Loved them. And I just continued to play and really enjoyed that. I'm so super fanning out that Mara's here because I'm a big Call of Duty guy. I play Call of Duty Zombies is my jam right now, and everything like that. I see you, Chris, my man. I'm also working. Well, I'll come back to that. But what I wanted to talk about was my journey from Jackson. My first appearance on TV was on WLBT. Y'all had a kids show called Our Playmates, and I was like 4 on there, and then I'll skip. While I was in Jackson, I came back to Jackson State, and I was on the news station W23BC and on the radio. I started on WOAD, that whole conglomerate. So gospel radio, and then soft soul favorites on Kixie 107, and then WJMI. You're home for hip hop and R&B. Danny Fox on the radio. That was my jam because that led me to my first gig. Which was a show called Pimp My Ride. I sang the theme song for Pimp My Ride, which turned into my first voiceover gig for video games. But quickly after Jackson State, and I'm surprised because Bo worked at Jackson State and did some construction there, as you were saying. I'm surprised our paths didn't cross in Jackson, but they certainly did at Cal Arts. I was a little older. Thank you, Jennifer. I was a little older. I still am. But Cecily Strong and Allison Bree, they were first-year BFAs when I was an MFA there, and their talent was undeniable, as Bo was saying. After I graduated Cal Arts, my first voiceover gig was Pimp My Ride, and I used that same voice I learned at JMI to play a DJ at the beginning of Janet Jackson's video, All Night, Don't Stop, and everything. And I've gone between television, film, and voiceover. I was on this Barbershop, the series, playing Thug, believe it or not. But I played Michael Ealy's character from the film. And then I did done theater and everything, and also, but everything started at Jackson State. I did Miss Evers Boys. That was my first lead role right there in what was then University Park Auditorium. I had my first news gig at W23BC, and of course radio gigs, and all of those played a part. When I got to Cal Arts, as Bo was saying, same program. I was in the MFA program. And I also had my accent beat out of me, and everything. It's still there, especially when I'm talking to my folk. But we did a lot of speech and diction work, a lot of voice work, and all of those things have served in an incredible way in video games. I've done. Mara and I both did Walking Dead, the Telltale games. Which is awesome. And I too get to play a superhero, which I can't tell you which one yet, but it'll be coming out in the next year, and everything like that. So I worked on several Blind Light games, including a really fun one where it's the first person shark, like you play as Jaws, like Man Eater, and it was it was a fun game. I played a shark hunter, and I get eaten, and I felt like Sam Jackson in Deep Blue Sea. Um, and after that, my brother Bo here said, "Yo, have you ever directed?" And I hadn't, but I really wanted to because we're actors, so we speak the language. And I had a wonderful opportunity to direct on several blind light projects that are coming out. Um, and including the Avengers game, which is really something fantastic. I got to direct on the Black Panther expansion pack, which, you know, Black Panther is a cultural phenomenon, and to get a chance to be a part of that, thanks to my friends at Blind Light, was really something amazing that I am extremely grateful for. I'm trying to think. I don't want to take up all the time, but I mean, that's pretty much how I've gotten to where I am. I just wanted to say one other thing. You know, you have Yala N. Jackson, there's Stan Branson running that whole conglomerate. There's Dr. Also Brooks from Jackson State. You guys have, I mean, everything y'all need to start is really right there. And it's a wonderful thing. And it gives me, like I said, it does my heart incredible good to be a part of this panel and get to talk to my Jackson family and those who may have gone to my dear old college home as well. Thank you.
Thanks so much. That you guys are a hard act to follow. You guys have a rich past. But I will, let's see, I'll give you some of mine. My name is Mara Juno. I am a full-time voice actress for the past almost 13 years now. I too am from the South. I was raised in Louisiana, Lafayette. If you're familiar with Lafayette, I'll also spend a lot of my time in a little town called Houma. It's about 45 minutes west of New Orleans. And I too have been gaming for quite some time. I feel like I'm dating myself. I remember my first system was an Atari 2600. So I'm like really dating myself. But yeah, I've always just loved games. I mean, I used to literally be the only chick in the arcade. I got, you know, I just was obsessed with playing. I don't play as much anymore now because I'm ashamed to admit it, but the new controllers are just so damn complicated that I have a lot of trouble navigating myself. It's pretty pitiful. I've been thinking about actually starting some sort of streaming channel where people can just watch me, you know, bump into walls and see just how bad it is. But my career in voiceover started, I've been doing it full time for about 13 years, but I had been long doing it before that, off and on. You know, not professionally. I mean, just helping people out with, you know, voicemail systems on their, you know, for their businesses and, you know, various local commercials, yada, yada. I spent about 8 years in radio prior to taking on voiceover. I started off as a country midday DJ on C107.5 KCIL, South Louisiana's home for today's best country and the legends. It's amazing how that gets baked in your head. And then I wound up also working on the Rock Morning Show. We had like a conglomerate of 4 different stations. We had like an ESPN station, classic rock station, country, and adult contemporary. And I wound up pretty much being a jock on all 3 stations except ESPN because I knew jack about sports. But I was kind of doing 3 DJ positions at once for quite some time, and that grew very tiresome, and I realized there was pretty much nowhere to grow from there. But at the time, it was kind of my favorite thing in the world to do, to get to talk and play music and make friends for a living, and I really didn't think that it got much better than that, and I had never considered the actual voices in games and things like that until about 7-8 years into radio. And I was like, I've got to do something else. But this was the only thing that I loved. And so suddenly the light bulb went off. It's like, I can still talk for a living. And I had actually always wanted to be an actress when I was a kid, but you know, I really didn't like the idea of being an on-camera person who had no privacy, you know, especially now that everybody's got cell phones and cameras with them and all this. And, you know, people feel like once you're on camera, you're kind of people's property. And I was like, that does not sound like something I want to sign up for. So I thought acting was a dream that I would never really be able to pursue. And then when the stars kind of aligned and I realized that, hey, I could actually act and people don't have to see me, it just all worked out. And I started very gung-ho going after figuring out how on earth I could start a voiceover career in the swamps of Louisiana when we really just didn't have an industry. We didn't have, any local studios where I was and no connections. And so thank God for the internet, because I just started combing the internet, trying to figure out everything I could about the industry. And I'd spend about 16, 18 hours a day just immersing myself and, trying to figure out how to develop marketing materials and studying all the top voiceover agencies and seeing what, a commercial demo sounds like versus a, gaming demo and all these different sort of things. And just really practicing and coaching. And, if I make a little money on a little voiceover gig here and there, I try to put it back into the business and, work my way up to getting a good microphone and yada yada. And before I knew it, after about a year of really hustling, I finally got kind of my first bigger client. I became the voice of Oric vacuum cleaners and pure air purifiers. I did that for about 4.5 years. And also around that time, I became the voice of AT&T and nationwide directory assistants, which nobody uses anymore. I have no idea why they decided to revamp that, but if you did happen to call for information, you heard my voice, but I was a little perkier back then. And so, I've just been kind of hustling and studying in every possible genre of voiceover that I could tackle. My goal has especially been to try to show the industry that, women can kick ass just as much as the men can. And also to bring some more diversity to the plate and show that we can should be in the rooms and getting those doors opened for us just as much as everyone else. And thank God the past few years, the industry has really been shifting and we're no longer just kind of on the sidelines and like, oh yeah, maybe we should cast a person of color, or the only time we get considered for an audition is if it specifically says a person of color. We're actually starting to be invited to the table for just about everything, which is so refreshing because, frankly, that's how it should be. And I've been really, really fortunate to be on some amazing AAA franchises, many through Blind Light, like Guild Wars 2, Destiny 2. I'm the female Char PC in Guild Wars 2. I'm Ikora in Destiny 2. Let's see, Fallout 76, Wastelanders. I'm Meg Groberg. She's the head of the, I forget. She's like one of the heads of she's one of the bad guys. Let's just say that. If you play Fortnite, I'm one of the primary villains there. I'm Dr. Sloan. Lisa in Genshin Impact. I'm the new Sindel in Mortal Kombat 11. Like Dan mentioned, I'm Krista in The Walking Dead, Zaina in Call of Duty, Black Ops Cold War, and Warzone. Evelyn in League of Legends, Ilaria Windrunner in World of Warcraft. I'm also in this awesome new show from Riot Games called Arcane. I play Shula. She's a council member and a couple of side characters. Nyoka in The Outer Worlds, Jaula, the head Klingon in Star Trek Online. I got to play Storm in Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 3 and some other projects. And yeah, it's just been exploding and just been downright amazing. And I'm just honored to be in this space with you guys today and hopefully, help to give you a little guidance on kind of how to start this career. But, as Bo mentioned, everybody kind of has a different path to get here. And that's what's cool about it, because there are no set rules and you can kind of even make your own rules now in the world that we're living in. But yeah, I'm just thrilled to be a part of this event today and happy to share any knowledge that I can.
Right.
I don't know who we're turning it over to next.
So I think, Blind Light's casting and creative director, Tommy Callahan, unfortunately couldn't make it today. But he did record a little bit of audio and so we're going to change gears here a little bit. He's basically going to talk about things to keep in mind when you're home recording and just things to be aware of. Tommy, like in one of his jobs at Blind Light, is kind of making sure that the auditions are up to the quality they need to be for delivery to client, and so that's an important part of when you audition for voiceover. You really want to make sure that you've got as good a quality cut of VO as you can get at home, and depending on your own setup, whether you're recording in a bedroom or a closet or whatever your particular thing is, which is the way many people auditions, especially post-pandemic, that it's an important part of the process. So I'm going to share my screen, which I think I'm allowed to do. And I'm just going to put up an image, a little homage to Monty Python, because I am a dork. So I'm going to share that. And then I'm going to, because Tommy can't be here, so he's sort of not appearing in this film. And then I need to share audio. And I figured this out last time. And let's see, share. Here we go. Okay, share. I was not going to share my audio and image at the same time. All right, well, we're just going to play Tommy's audio.
Hey everyone, my name is Tommy Callahan, and I just want to say first off, thanks for inviting me to your space today. I really appreciate the opportunity to participate. So I'm recording this at home, just like a lot of our actors need to at the moment, and you're going to be able to hear very clearly as I talk about the importance of recording clean audio. Probably my refrigerator, some fabric movement with my shirt, 8 or 9 dogs. I'm not quite sure how many we're up to in my apartment complex. Could be 10, who knows? Don't be like Tommy. So first off, and again, this is not condescension, we're building the argument brick by brick. What we perceive as noise is changes in air pressure. And when somebody claps or a vacuum is created, the air is either pulled or pushed together. We might imagine like saltwater taffy. And we recognize that visually most often by waveforms. So when you put in some earbuds or some headphones that do a nice job of reducing sound for you, they've got a little microphone in there. And what the microphone's doing is, and again, I know that this is probably very basic for all of us here, but what it's doing is it's listening to that sound that's coming in, and it's shifting it just a little bit, because in every place where the pressure is pulled, making a pulled sound, it sends in a pushed sound. And when we do this at the same time, when your headphones are able to mask the sine waves so that they go perfectly 180 degrees out of phase with each other, our ears go, well, I didn't hear nothing, right? So that's all familiar ground, but where it gets interesting is there's no extra special math or physics that we use in audio engineering to make recordings sound better. It's just that same principle. When it's a really simple sine wave, that's one thing. But when we get into the intricacies of human speech and we add in refrigerators and dogs, mouth noise, fabric noise, we change a very simple picture for the computer, up, down, into a very jagged one. And if you imagine that, it was your job to cut out, construction paper versions of it, it'd be much easier to do half circles than it would be to do 900 spikes each time I say a syllable. Our task is to make what's coming in as clean as possible. Once we've made it as clean as possible, we can take that audio and put it in video games and do really weird stuff with it, fun stuff. We can make it sound like a monster or a robot. So here in our whisper room, essentially what we're doing is we're trying to cut out everything that isn't the performance. That's why we've got this massive booth. That's why we plug it up and make sure that even the holes that the cords go into are sealed as tight as possible. That's why we have things that people need, like this air ventilation system, but it makes noise. So we have to engineer a way to make it as quiet as possible. And then every place where a cord connects with another machine or an extension cord, that's an opportunity for the sound from the microphone, which is the sound at its purest for us, to degrade. So we want to make sure that our chains are as simple and as short as possible. We also have this nice little stomp box here, so we can make sure that there is no sound coming from the computer into the headphones or the booth. We're just getting fresh stuff out. Most people like to hear themselves performing while they perform, so we need to also be able to toggle it back on. But what we would do in a recording here, now that we're all set up, is we would have the person go into the booth, shut the door, and start rolling. Then we're going to take room tone. And this is the thing that drives everybody who's not in audio insane. You can spend 2 hours on a film set setting up lights and cameras. Nobody blinks an eye. But you ask for 15 seconds of room tone, everybody loses their minds. Still, you have to be able to have it, because what computers do, when we think back to that whole question of how do we make it as easy as possible to make these waves of sound cancel each other out where they need to, we need to be able to tell the computer, in this space that we record, this is what quiet sounds like. And now that the computer has a sample of what quiet sounds like, it can go through a whole lot of audio and say, you know what? I recognize that I don't have to mess around with this bit and make it sound better. I can just cut it out. So it's just the noise cancellation principle, just on a machine that requires lots and lots of RAM. So that's what we look at when we look at trying to set up a space. I'm going to leave this airplane sound in. I'm going to be the bad actor or actress. Don't wait until the night before to record your audio lecture, friends. Don't be like Tommy. But we learned a lot in the pandemic in audio engineering about how to set up for success for recording video games from home. And again, I'm an example of a do not do. But it doesn't really matter if you've got a $100 million microphone that picks up every noise ever. It doesn't matter if you've got a $50 one or anything in between. What matters is that microphone getting what it needs and nothing else? So there were a lot of folks who went out and invested in very nice microphones because this is what they do for a living and they need to be able to have pride in what they're creating. But we found out that a $2,000 microphone isn't as good as an investment as $200 or even $50 if you can find some really good blankets. We spent a lot of time during the pandemic setting up home recordings for people who did not normally do so. And we found that the best sound came from, again, canceling things before they get to the microphone. Because once we put it in the hands of the computer, it's just not possible to get some of it out. And afterwards, not possible to do all of the fun stuff that we want to with consistency. So all in all, I think, an ounce of prevention is worth 10 pounds of cure, right? But I realize this is a little bit different with me kind of zooming in with a pre-recorded package. But again, I just wanted to say thanks to BeanPath, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of the talk.
Okay. All right. I think I have successfully unshared the things. All right. Great. So I think we're going to hop into some questions now that were for the group here. Angelin, did you want to spearhead that, or do you want me to start asking the group some of these questions? I will take that as I'm going to start asking the group some questions.
No, I'll go ahead and get into it, Bo. Thank you all so much for sharing your insights. Thank you for having Tommy's speech on board. I'm sure it was helpful to get some of that technical guidance in addition to hearing about people's career paths. This is maybe related to kind of that acting piece and the technical piece, but one of Blindlight's selling points is that you all have thorough auditioning methodologies to make sure that when people come to you to cast people in these video games and do voice acting and performance acting, that you can cast people in the fastest time possible. Wow. So what are these proprietary methodologies that allow you to do that?
Well, we only cast fast if they want us to cast fast. So this really goes to the heart of that preparation thing, right? The style of casting we do at Blindlight is different than you might find other places. There are a lot of practicalities for why you might cast differently for different types of games or commercials or promos or whatever. We do collaborative casting. So what Blindlight generally likes to do is sort of embed with the narrative team for a video game, understand who the characters are, what motivates them, how do they feel about the other characters, what are the interpersonal relationships that matter. And once we have that kind of background early on, we can begin a casting process that's tailored to the needs of those characters and really the story, because every story is going to need different types of voices, different types of performances. Blindlight's been around for 20 years. So one of the things that makes it go faster is we just know a lot of the talent. So if, a developer says, hey, we've got story A and we need characters, X, Y, and Z, and they're saying this is, more of a tonal aspiration here, right? So we're going for actors that can do this type of performance, and that's going to be good enough for us to start out. Then we can say, okay, yes, this actor, this actor, this actor, we can start giving them a list. And that's not the way I prefer to do things in casting. My favorite thing, and I think a lot of people in casting, maybe our favorite thing is doing live auditions, listening to actor performance and being able to say like, oh yeah, this is what it is. Or, hey, you know what? I like this one. Can we go back and give a redirect? Because I think we can get it closer to what you want, right? And being able to be in that process and be involved and sort of see not only like who are the actors that we already know, if you got like a Fred Tatasciore is going to do the monster voice and just knock it out of the park, right? Like, we know that, right? But who's the next Fred Tatasciore? Who's the person recording, in their, apartment in the Valley who hasn't had their break yet? Like for me as a casting director, that's the thing I'm excited about finding, not just like, hey, who do we know is great, but like who's the next great? Because there are a lot of super talented people, great performers out there that just need a chance to be heard and just need somebody to be like, hey, wait a second, listen to this. So that's what I enjoy. But yeah, so the things that can make it go faster is early understanding of the script and the characters, our knowledge base of who the actors are in the space and who would probably be most ready out of the box to play certain types of characters. And then also just our ability to access, we've got a whisper room on site. We've got, recording studios at our sister company, Keywords LA. And, we've got a lot of resources we can access to bring actors in for redirects or to do those types of things if we need to. Obviously, during the pandemic, that hasn't been as much of a factor because everything's been really remote, with some exceptions. So that's sort of a long answer, but that kind of get to what you're asking.
I think so. It was pretty thorough. A along the same lines, because people are interested in voiceover acting here, do you need headshots to do voiceover acting?
Wow, that's a great question. So that is really going to depend on. There are some casting directors that will prefer headshots no matter what. That's a truism. Now, will the developer care? That depends on the developer. Some developers like to see on-camera auditions for voiceover. Some developers say, hey, can you put all the headshots in a folder for me? So when I'm listening to the sound files, I can pull up, the thing, So it really depends on the casting company and what their policies are and preferences. And then really more important than that, because at the end of the day, it really matters what the developer you're auditioning for wants, like whether they're going to want to see those headshots. So I would say as an actor, always have those ready, always have the headshot ready, always have the resume ready, just have all the things, because you never know when you're going to run into someone that's going to say, hey, do you have this thing? It's just better to have the thing when people ask for it. That's my opinion.
I see Mira and Dan nodding their heads as well. Is there something you'd like to add, or do people need to cut reels differently or something if they wanted to showcase their work as a voiceover actor as opposed to as a on-camera actor?
Well, Dan might be more qualified to answer that one since he's done on camera as well as voiceover. I've only handled the voiceover side, but when I first started out, I didn't have a headshot. I had just like a cartoon of me because I didn't want to be pigeonholed as, just the Black voice or just this or just that. And I wanted people to hear my work first and then fall in love and then go, oh, and by the way. But after a while, I realized that, especially now with so much casting being completely online, when you are competing with everybody else who does have a nice professional headshot, at the end of the day, we're animals, we're humans, but we're animals, and we're going to respond to that eye line connection and a real person versus, oh, that was a great voice, but I see a person right next to them. So I would absolutely say it's important to, have the headshot and just like Bo was saying, be ready, because somebody probably will ask for it at this point, just for promotional materials for maybe a big game that you wind up in or whatever the case may be. And you definitely want to have that, versus nothing at all or just a crappy picture from your iPhone.
And I'd love to dovetail on that. I agree with everything you're saying, Mara. And there's performance capture is increasingly prevalent in our industry, where they're using not only your voice. They'll use the motion sensors, like if you ever saw like the making of Avatar, for example. Sometimes they will use they'll use your likeness in the game. So with that in mind, headshots and even acting reels become something, necessary tools. And of course, having and I really love what you're saying, Mara, about not wanting to be seen as a certain way, which might prevent opportunities. But what I would also say too to that is, as you also said, representation is increasingly becoming just the norm, and it's a really wonderful thing. So yes, headshots. They ask for my acting demo reel too, sometimes. Headshots, demo reel, and if you don't have that, you're getting especially as a beginner. But these are just things that you want to keep in mind, and everything like that, because those performance capture opportunities are some lucrative opportunities as well. And the animation slash voiceover demo, that's something that, you gotta rock with that as well. So yeah, long answer, my bad, but I wanted to share that.
No, the more the better. You also mentioned something that I wanted to bring up, the performance capture piece. And maybe Bo and Brianna can speak more to this, but is that the same technology as something that powers animojis or something on the iPhone? How does this performance capture piece work?
That's a great question. So, a couple of years ago, I would say these are completely different things. But during the pandemic, we saw rapid iteration of development of different types of motion capture and facial capture technologies that can be used remotely. So we saw things where a facial capture studio or a production house would send these rigs. Some of these rigs use a phone, and the camera on your phone becomes the mapping thing, and it's connected to software that essentially is able to capture all the motion. And that's something we saw used during the pandemic, where they would ship these things that are just super easy, plug and play. The actor can throw it on, and they don't need to worry about setting up a lot of different complicated things and rigging and different camera angles and things like that. But it really depends on what the technical needs of the animation team are. That's where you're going to get into what is the right technology? What is the, what are we trying to capture? Do we need to do, the dots, the makeup, a lot of that really depends on the specific needs of the animation pipeline, which, is often its very own pipeline that works differently than, say, the narrative pipeline or even our voiceover pipeline. So you've got different, game companies, especially on AAA games, big teams, just like a film. You've got your art department, you got your, your riggers, you got all these different types of departments in games, and they're going to have different technical specifications. So that's why the answer isn't like, oh, we use this software or we use this camera, because it is so different depending on the game and the animation team and their pipeline and what they need.
Brianna, anything to add to that from the?
Bo's really good at covering things. that was pretty much what I was going to touch on. Yeah, it's really specific to what they need, honestly. I've seen even like HMC stuff get used. It depends on like what the client needs. So yeah.
What's an HMC? I mean, you can explain that for the.
So HMC is like head motion capture. So they put these helmets. Look, that's just the way I'm going to describe it. It's basically just a headpiece that they throw on. It has a built-in mic. Sometimes they have lights as well, most of the time. And basically, they're just capturing the face and the facial movements and stuff like that. So that's the long and short of head motion capture. Dan, I've seen you nodding your head. If you want to add anything that I missed, feel free.
That was I literally was like, oh yeah, I didn't tell him about the head camera. That I was just remembering that. Oh yeah, yeah. You don't want to look at the head camera, but if you look at it, it moves really quickly.
Yeah.
I just remember I was the first time I did that. I watched the head camera and moved, and it's like very fast. Anyway, I'm rambling, but it was just a little fun opportunity.
Okay. So we have a question for the beginners out there. Speaking of explaining acronyms and helping those who might not know as much about this space, if you want to work on small projects to start out, where would you recommend that people start and what should they look out for? And I would also ask if you can speak to some things that are maybe Jackson and Mississippi specific, because I know a lot of our viewers are from that region. Are there any local resources you could plug too?
I would say, start with what you can reach out to local business owners. I mean, we all tend to know, a couple, and you can ask about their advertising needs. You can start with local cable affiliates. I used to do a lot of local TV commercials for like the Charter Cable affiliate that was in town, because they're always looking to find new voices for grocery stores or this and that. And that's a great way to get some practice. You can even check with your local radio station. Sometimes, they need, people on the weekends to do, of course it's more radio work, but oftentimes you get the practice of, recording local commercials and such and things. So yeah, you can always start local. And then there are sites online. There are some sites called pay to play sites. That's kind of where I got my start. There's a lot of controversy over them because there are certain ones that are, I won't say less reputable, but more, I'll just say more shady than others. Some will take a good, portion of what they're quoting you and what they're quoting the client, and they're kind of padding, a huge amount in between that should not be going to them as commission, because they're not talent agents. They're really just customer service reps. But, they may tell you, oh, the job's $300 and the job is $3,000. And so you didn't know, and they prevent you from communicating. But there's only a couple of sites that do that. I would always recommend checking out the website and looking for the word scam or reviews, and you'll find kind of what you need. But my favorites that I used to use in the past, I don't really use them that much anymore because most of my work comes from agents. But Voice 123 is a site where you can put up a profile, and if you want to sign up for an annual membership, I think the base membership is maybe around $350 or whatever. Now, what signing up for the paid membership allows you to do is you will get like anything that you seem to qualify for based on your age, race, gender, and category. If it's a commercial, if it's a video game, it's this and that. You can set up demos, and if you don't have a demo, you can even put together like a fake commercial if you need to or whatever, just something to show people kind of what you can do, because ultimately you're going to wind up doing a custom audition for the project usually anyway, and that's what's going to win you the gig. But if you don't decide to pay, the good part is you can still set up a free profile. In fact, that was kind of my secret sauce when I first got into the business, because I'm very introverted. I was not about to start cold calling people, and that's just not my bag. And so I literally would just scour the internet, and anything that was remotely voiceover related, I would just try to build SEO that way by putting a profile up, putting demos up as I had it. If I booked a local commercial, like for a hospital or something, then okay, I'd say this is part of my commercial demo, and I'd have a little hospital spot. You can literally use just one spot and call it a demo while you're getting started, because professional demos can be very expensive, and I do not recommend trying to get one early before you're actually ready to do it. So in the meantime, you just work with what you have, and yeah, you can set up profiles, at anywhere you want. But the problem is, if you're not paying, the only things that you will be able to audition for is if somebody in casting happens to find you and invite you personally to audition. So that's the drawback there. If you do pay, you get to play more, and then you have the opportunities for anything that, you appear to qualify for based on the specs. You can jump in and start getting practice that way. And then, in the world of anime and games, there's a lot of these sites where, young casting directors and stuff, I forget the name of it. It's not official shows and stuff, but it's kind of like dub work or whatever, where you can kind of audition, and somebody else might know the actual term for this, but I see a lot of that. Now, I don't know how much that's going to get you anywhere, but it will definitely get you the practice. And practice is ultimately what it's about, is, talking and reading and getting familiar with analyzing and breaking down copy as much as you can. So the more you can get exposed to all these different genres and kind of find your way and just get more familiar with how these things work, the better. So some of these things may not be paid in terms of being, legit or whatever, or they may pay kind of lower rates compared to what's industry standard. But when you're first starting out, you have to start out with what you have. You can't command $500 an hour yet if you haven't earned that, so yeah, I would say look at pay-to-play sites and look at your local community, and it doesn't hurt to pick up the phone and, call ad agencies, and just see what you can do.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for all this great advice. I hope that it's helped someone, somewhere. I'm sure it's helped multiple people. The Bean Path has tech office hours every second Saturday. So if you're interested in more conversations like this, be sure to follow us. Our website is thebeanpath.org. That's now on the chat. You can check out our link tree to see some of the other initiatives that we have going on. Thank you all to the Blind Light team. Thank you all to Mara Juneau, Dan White. Any famous last words?
I just wanted to quickly say one thing about local resources. Go to W23BC on Jackson State's campus. Go to Kixie, JMIWOAD, NC, because that was my start in radio, which was my start in voiceover. Go to MPB and go to the jazz station at Jackson State as well. There are opportunities everywhere right where you are, and they will launch you. I promise, because it happened to me.
And I just want to say thank you so much for having us. And it's always great to start the day talking to some people from Mississippi. So thank you for all my other panelists there. I appreciate all you guys coming in, and can't wait to see what the Bean Path's going to do this year and in the future. I really believe, with people like Dr. Cephas and Bean Path, Jackson's best days aren't just ahead, they're at hand. And I really believe that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me. This was amazing. I didn't know how we were going to talk for like an hour, and now I just wish it was longer, but this was amazing. And yeah, just thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Likewise. Thank you all so much for having me. I hopefully offered some helpful advice. You can find me on social media if you have any further questions. Instagram's probably your best bet. I am very slow to respond to DMs, but be patient. I'll be happy to help you if I can. Just mention the bean path. That'll accelerate things a little bit.
And we'll try to consolidate all the resources that everyone mentioned. So I can check with the panelists and send out a lot of the things that we mentioned to all the attendees via Eventbrite. So everyone just check out your inbox, and I'll send over a recap so we can get the ball moving on some of these things. All right. Well, have a great Saturday, everyone. Thank you again. And thanks to everyone who